So in today's lesson, students will know how to multiply and divide numbers in scientific notations. So the good news is because you're multiplying and dividing, there's less rules. When you added and subtracted scientific notations, right, the exponents had to be the same, which all your problems were, and then you had to keep the exponents alone and add the a's. Here, it's slightly different, so I'll just make up an easy problem to go over. So here, right, this would be clear, we're multiplying scientific notation because there's a multiplication symbol in between the two scientific notations. From there, just like when you multiply fractions, little problem up here in the corner, 1/2 times 1/3. Now you don't care if the denominators are the same or if they're different. Right now when you multiply, all you gotta do is multiply your numerators together and multiply your denominators together. You don't leave your denominators alone this time. This time you actually multiply them. So we're gonna be doing the same thing in scientific notation. We're gonna multiply our a's, which is like your numerator, and we're going to multiply our base 10s, which is kind of like your denominators. After that, you're done. You might have to tweak your answer afterwards, but if that's the case, we just tweak it. So let's do it together now. So I'm first going to multiply my a's. 2 times 3 is 6. And then it's going to be times 10. It's always times 10. And then this time, I'm not going to leave my exponent alone. This time, I'm actually going to manipulate it. I'm going to do 10 to the third power times 10 to the fifth power. But don't forget the rules from chapter 1. When you multiply the same bases, technically you add the exponents. So 3 plus 5 is 8. Here you have to check to see if you can tweak it, or if you need to tweak it, that is, but you don't. Your a is between 1 and 10. So you're done. Your answer is 6 times 10 to the 8th power. That's all there is to multiplying scientific notation. So I'll do one with you, and then you do the next few on your own. So once again, I'm multiplying. First, I'll do the a's. So 7 times 1 is 7. So I already know my answer is going to be 7 times 10 to whatever power. So I can eliminate these two. And then I'm going to multiply 10 to the 5th power and 10 to the 3rd power. But please understand, this is like chapter 1. 10 to the 5th power times 10 to the 3rd power. When you're multiplying the same bases, technically you add the exponents. So 5 plus 3 is 8. So my final answer is going to be 7 times 10 to the 8th power. So this is my answer right here. Do not multiply your exponents. So try the next few on your own. Pause this video, and then we'll do this one together. So here, it's the same thing as before. Just multiply your a's. 2 times 2 is 4. And then 10 to the 3rd times 10 to the 5th is times 10 to the 8th. Done. Okay, so try this one on your own. And now let's do the dividing. So dividing, same thing as before. Remember, this is your big number, the big font. Remember doing that from chapter 1? So here we're not adding or subtracting, right? We're actually doing exactly what it says. And that says 5 over 5, or 5 divided by 5. Don't forget, a fraction bar really means division. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. And then you're going to divide 10 to the 4th divided by 10 to the 1st. And once again, whenever you're dividing the same bases, you technically subtract the exponents. So it'll be times 10 to the 3rd power. So my final answer is 1 times 10 to the 3rd power. Okay, try these next few on your own. Remember, you might have to tweak your answer. So after you get your answer, just make sure that it is in scientific notation. That means that your a is between the 1 and the 10, where it can equal 1, but it has to be slightly under 10. If it's not, if it's smaller than 1, or if it's bigger than 10, you have to then tweak your answer. An Olympic-sized swimming pool is about 5 times 10 to the 1st power meters long and 2.5 times 10 to the 1st meter wide. Find the approximate area of the water surface. So I'm going to draw a little pool here. This is 2.5 times 10 to the 1st. And this is 5 times 10 to the 1st. Now, please understand, it didn't matter if I put the 5 here, or if I decided to put the 5 here instead and move this over here. You know, for the most part, I just drew it out, but it didn't really matter where I put it. I just need a length and a width. And they want us to solve the area. So area is length times width. So in order to get the area here, all I have to do is length times width. So I'm doing 2.5 times 10 to the first times, right, times 5 times 10 to the first. I multiply my a's together, and I'm doing 2.5 times 5, which is 12.5. Uh-oh, I have an a that's bigger than 10, so that tells me I'm probably going to have to do more work afterwards. And then to be times 10, and we add the exponents technically, even though we are multiplying. And 1 plus 1 is 2. Now, like I said before, my a is bigger than 10, so I'm going to have to tweak it. So the decimal, for it to be in scientific notation, technically it has to be here. So that's 1.25. That means I decreased from 12 to 1. That means I'm going to increase this guy just one space. You see how there's one hoop here? So this is increasing one space. So it's times 10 to the third power. And then you have one more thing that you have to do. Don't forget this is a word problem, so we need labels. And it says meter long. So it's technically meter squared, right? Area is always unit squared. So feet squared, meter squared, centimeter squared. So in this case, because it's meter, my answer is a meter squared. So my final answer is 1.25 times 10 to the third power meter squared. Go ahead and do this one on your own and this one on your own. This one, just be careful. It does say how many times. We went over this before. How many times? How many times does 2 go into 8? What are you doing to the 8 and the 2, right? Just remember in the future, how many times means division. But everything else you should be able to do. But this time you're going to divide.